The royal guard's life, especially in high-profile places like the British monarchy, is something many people admire from a distance. To the public, these guards seem like statues, standing tall and rigid, silent and strong day after day. Their disciplined routines are so well known that most people don't think much beyond the surface. They stand in place for hours on end, serving their country and the monarchy with a sense of pride and duty that can seem unshakable. But beneath the famous red uniforms and the polished black boots, there's a side to the royal guard that most people don't see: the emotional challenges that come with being so close to history, yet so far from the people they care about. The selection process to become a royal guard is intense, demanding not only physical strength but mental toughness as well. The protagonist, a young recruit, dreams of this prestigious role from a very young age. They've imagined the honor of standing watch at the gates of the royal palace, serving the monarchy with every ounce of their being. But the reality of becoming a royal guard isn't as glamorous as it might seem from the outside. It's not just about looking sharp in uniform. The journey is filled with rigorous training, from physical endurance tests to mental evaluations that push recruits to their limits. For our protagonist, it's not just about the uniform. It's about the pride of wearing it, the deep sense of responsibility that comes with standing guard for the royal family. They spend months preparing, running miles each morning, lifting weights and practicing drills that test every aspect of their strength. But it's not just physical endurance that's being tested. The mental and emotional preparation is just as demanding. The recruits are taught to remain stoic, never letting emotions show no matter what happens around them. The ability to keep a straight face even in the most challenging situations is a core part of the Royal Guard's role. Their job is to maintain a composed, respectful presence at all times, even in the face of discomfort or adversity. But this emotional control comes at a cost. As the protagonist spends more time training, they begin to realize the sacrifice that comes with this life. They have to leave behind friends and family, sometimes for months at a time, to live in a world where their every move is scrutinized by both the public and their fellow guards. They think about the people they love and the normal life they once led. There are moments when they miss the warmth of family gatherings, the comfort of familiar faces, and the joy of a quiet evening at home. But these are luxuries that the Royal Guard can rarely afford. The long hours of training and standing watch often leave little time for personal connections. As the protagonist moves closer to becoming a full-fledged Royal Guard, the pressure to maintain a perfect image begins to build. They learn to push aside their emotions, to silence any inner voice that tells them to relax or take a break. This intense discipline is not just about performing physical tasks, but about controlling their very feelings. They are taught to hide their true selves behind the uniform, to become part of the larger tradition that has been upheld for centuries. Their individual needs, desires, and struggles are set aside in favor of the role they must play. They are now not just a person, but a symbol of strength, discipline, and tradition. This journey isn't easy. There are moments of doubt, moments when the protagonist questions if they have the strength to continue. The pressure of always being on begins to take its toll. The physical exhaustion from standing for hours without moving, the mental strain from the constant need to remain alert, and the emotional burden of being disconnected from their loved ones start to wear on them. And yet there's no room for weakness. The rules are clear. No matter how tired, how lonely, or how overwhelmed they may feel, the guard must remain in control, standing tall and unwavering. At times, the protagonist's thoughts wander back to their life before they donned the uniform. They think of their family, their friends, and the simple pleasures they once took for granted. They think of their loved ones who, with every passing day, seem further and further away. The Royal Guard's duty is one of selflessness, but it is also a life of sacrifice. They realize that their time with family and friends will always be limited, and that these emotional connections will have to take a back seat to their duty. This is not something the protagonist expected when they first joined the Royal Guard. They thought it would be about honor, about standing tall at the gates looking strong and proud. But what they didn't realize was how much of themselves they would have to give up in order to fulfill their duties. They've become part of a long tradition, one that demands perfection, precision, and complete emotional restraint. It's a world where the slightest sign of weakness could be seen as a failure, where the pressure to always be strong can feel overwhelming. And yet, despite all the difficulties, there's something deeply fulfilling about the role. The protagonist begins to understand that the life of a royal guard isn't just about the duty to the monarchy. it's also about something much bigger. It's about being part of something larger than oneself, something that represents the history and traditions of an entire nation. Standing guard day after day might seem repetitive, even isolating at times, but there's a certain pride that comes with knowing you are part of such a revered institution. The Royal Guard doesn't just serve the monarchy, they serve the people, the nation, and the past, present, and future of their country. This realization becomes a source of strength for the protagonist, helping them push through the toughest moments. As the protagonist continues their training, they become more adept at maintaining their stoic appearance, more skilled at hiding their emotions. They learn to bury their personal struggles deep within, focusing solely on their duty. The weight of the uniform, the responsibility it carries, begins to feel less like a burden and more like an honor. It's clear that this is a life of discipline and sacrifice, but it is also a life of deep respect and service. Though the protagonist may feel a sense of loneliness at times, they begin to find comfort in knowing that their efforts are contributing to something greater. They understand that the emotions they bury aren't gone forever. They are simply put on hold, waiting for the moments when they can once again connect with the people they care about. The path to becoming a Royal Guard is not easy, but it is a path that shapes them into someone stronger, someone more resilient. Through this journey, the protagonist learns that while the Royal Guard may stand in silence, their role is far from simple. Behind the stern faces, behind the rigid discipline, lies the heart of someone who has given up their own desires and dreams for the greater good. They are not just standing guard over a palace. They are standing guard over the history, values, and traditions of their nation. And while the emotional cost of this service may be high, the pride and sense of duty they feel make every sacrifice worth it. This expanded version provides a more detailed insight into the protagonist's journey and emotional challenges as they move toward becoming a Royal Guard, focusing on the emotional journey behind the duty and sacrifice required. It touches on personal conflicts, the difficulty of balancing professional responsibilities with personal desires, and the deeper understanding of what it means to serve in such a prestigious role. On the first day of standing duty as a Royal Guard, the protagonist's excitement and pride quickly give way to a deep realization. The job is far more demanding than they ever imagined. As they stand motionless, their feet firmly planted on the cold stone ground, they experience a mixture of awe and anxiety. They are finally in the position they worked so hard to attain, but the sheer weight of responsibility feels much heavier in reality than in their dreams. They stand silently, trying to remain as composed as they were trained, but inside, they are battling a whirlwind of emotions. The clock ticks slowly, with each passing second feeling longer than the last. The silence around them is deafening. The stillness, which seemed so serene during training, now feels stifling, almost unbearable. The protagonist struggles to keep their mind from wandering. Thoughts about family, friends, and life outside the palace float in and out of their head. Yet, no matter how hard they try to focus on the task at hand, they find themselves wishing for a break, a moment to just breathe and let their guard down. But there's no room for such luxuries. The Royal Guard is meant to stand tall and unwavering, no matter the circumstance. The training drills that were once grueling have now become a constant reality, and they begin to understand just how demanding the job really is. The rules are strict: no talking, no fidgeting, no showing any sign of weakness. The guards are not allowed to shift their positions, even if their legs ache or their body begs for rest. The weight of their uniforms and the pressure to always stay alert begin to take a toll. As the hours pass, the protagonist starts to feel a deep sense of isolation. There are no conversations to break the silence, no friendly faces to ease the tension. They are alone with their thoughts, and the stillness only amplifies the emotions they had hoped to keep buried. The monotony of standing still, sometimes for hours with nothing but the occasional passing of tourists or other guards to break up the solitude, begins to feel overwhelming. The sense of being invisible, of being just another part of the backdrop, begins to gnaw at them. It's during one of these long shifts that a small, unexpected moment causes a crack in their otherwise composed demeanor. A group of tourists, excited to be near the Royal Guard, stop to take pictures. They laugh, joke around, and ask silly questions. The protagonists, trying their best to stay in character, remain still, their face a mask of stoic professionalism. But as one of the tourists says something lighthearted, perhaps a compliment or a playful remark, it hits the protagonist in a way they didn't expect. The fleeting nature of the moment, the laughter, the excitement of those around them, contrast so sharply with their own stillness, and for the briefest second, they feel a pang of longing. They want to smile, to engage, to show that they are more than just a statue in uniform. They want to acknowledge the humanity in the world around them, but they can't. The rules are clear. The guard must remain impassive no matter what happens, and so the protagonist swallows that feeling, hiding it deep within as they always have been trained to do. But that moment lingers in their mind, a reminder of what they've sacrificed for this role. As the day goes on, the protagonist finds themselves feeling more disconnected from the world. They see people walking by, families laughing, children running, and they can't help but feel a sense of sadness. It's as if they've been locked away in this small corner of the world, unable to participate in life. It's a strange feeling, one that they hadn't expected. They had always thought they would take pride in being so close to the royal family, and so respected by the public, but now, standing alone for hours, they begin to feel the emotional weight of what it means to serve in this way. There are moments when the protagonist's mind begins to wander, and they can't stop themselves from thinking about their loved ones. They wonder how their family is doing, what they're up to, and if they're missing them. They think about their friends, about the simple joys of a day spent with loved ones. They remember how it used to feel to laugh freely, to share a moment of connection without the constraints of their uniform. These memories are bittersweet, and they quickly push them aside. There's no time for nostalgia. Their duty is to remain present, to remain still. But still, the longing creeps in and the loneliness becomes harder to ignore. The protagonist wonders if anyone truly understands the emotional toll that comes with this life. To the outside world, they are simply doing their job, standing at attention for a few hours a day, performing a task that's almost ceremonial. But for the guards themselves, it's so much more than that. It's a way of life that requires constant self-discipline, constant restraint. The emotional cost is high, and there's little room to express the feelings that arise. As the protagonist's shift stretches on, they begin to notice the exhaustion setting in. Their legs start to ache from standing so long. Their body grows stiff from the stillness. But even as their muscles protest, they can't break their composure. It's a small victory each time they manage to ignore the discomfort, to stand firm in the face of both physical and emotional strain. It's in these moments that the protagonist begins to understand what it truly means to be a royal guard. It's not just about the discipline. It's about the ability to endure. They must endure the long hours, the isolation, and the emotional distance. They must endure in silence because that is what their duty requires. By the end of the shift, the protagonist is mentally drained. They can feel the weight of the day in every muscle, every thought. As they finally get a chance to move and step away from their post, they feel a deep sense of relief. But even then, it's not an entirely freeing feeling. The day has been long and the emotional strain still lingers. They wonder if they will ever get used to the isolation, if they will ever truly stop longing for a connection to the outside world. In the quiet of the evening, the protagonist reflects on the day's events. They think about how they held it together, how they managed to remain in control of their emotions, and how they have begun to understand the toll that this life takes. The stillness of the guard's duty isn't just physical, it's emotional too. And it's a weight they must carry every day. As the day draws to a close, the protagonist wonders about their future. Will they always feel this isolated? Will the monotony of standing still day after day ever become easier? They don't have the answers yet. But one thing is clear. The life of a royal guard is not just about standing at attention. It's about surviving the emotional and physical challenges that come with the role, and learning to carry the weight of duty, no matter how heavy it may feel. As the days pass, the protagonist begins to grow accustomed to the rigid routine of being a royal guard. The silent, steadfast role of standing watch no longer feels as overwhelming as it did on that first day. But a new realization begins to settle in. The job isn't just about standing still in uniform. It's also about the bonds formed with fellow guards. These bonds are not just about camaraderie. They are about survival. They are what keep the protagonist going, even during the most trying times. At first, the protagonist had no idea what to expect from their fellow guards. In the early days, everyone seemed distant, almost like they were keeping to themselves. The strict rules and rigid schedules didn't leave much room for socializing, and it seemed that each guard was focused solely on their duty, nothing more. But soon enough, the protagonist starts to notice something subtle. When the shifts are long, when the hours are tiring, and when the physical and emotional strain begins to take its toll, the guards begin to connect in ways that are unspoken but deeply understood. One day, as they stand side by side, the protagonist shares a quiet glance with another guard, a look that says everything. There's no need for words. Both feel the pressure of the job and the emotional distance from the world outside. It's in that moment that the protagonist begins to see the deeper bond that forms between those who share this intense, solitary experience. They are not just colleagues performing a task. They are fellow soldiers in the same battle, each facing their own struggles in silence. As the days turn into weeks, the protagonist's interactions with the other guards grow more comfortable. There are small moments when they exchange brief smiles or offer a word of encouragement. When the exhaustion begins to show, the pressure to maintain complete stoic control is always there. But there is an unspoken understanding that it's okay to have fleeting moments of connection. A word of reassurance here. A shared glance of empathy. These are the small moments that help the protagonist stay grounded and human. But the protagonist soon learns that these moments of connection go beyond just relieving the pressure. They are crucial to maintaining mental and emotional health in such a demanding and isolating role. Without the camaraderie of the other guards, the protagonist realizes it would be easy to lose sight of the human side of the job. The solitude of standing watch with no one to talk to and no one to share the burden of responsibility can quickly become overwhelming. It's the bonds with fellow guards that provide moments of relief, reminders that they are not alone in this challenging role. There's one fellow guard, in particular, who becomes a close confidant to the protagonist. This guard, a seasoned veteran of the Royal Guard, has seen it all: the long hours, the emotional toll, and the sacrifices that come with the job. Their calm demeanor and quiet wisdom become a source of comfort and guidance for the protagonist. Over time, the two begin to share stories of their lives outside the palace, reminisce about their families, and talk about the things they miss. The conversations are always brief, time is limited, and there's always the looming presence of duty. But in those short exchanges, the protagonist begins to understand the true value of these connections. One day, after a particularly exhausting shift, the protagonist opens up to this fellow guard about their struggles. They talk about the isolation, the loneliness, and the difficulty of balancing the emotional toll of the job with their sense of duty. To the protagonist's surprise, the veteran guard listens intently, offering nothing but understanding and encouragement. They share that in their own way, they felt the same way. The veteran explains that these moments of doubt and emotional vulnerability are normal, part of the journey of being a Royal Guard. It's a life of service. Yes, but it's also a life of sacrifice, and sometimes that sacrifice comes with emotional weight. This conversation marks a turning point for the protagonist. They realize that they don't have to carry the burden of their emotions alone. The veteran guard's words, simple yet profound, offer comfort in a way that nothing else has. The protagonist understands that while their job is to remain composed and professional at all times, it doesn't mean they have to hide their emotions completely. It's okay to feel, and it's okay to seek support from those who understand the unique challenges they face. As the protagonist becomes more comfortable with their fellow guards, they begin to notice something remarkable. Despite the rigid structure of the Royal Guard's duties, there is a deep sense of community that forms behind the scenes. It's not about the uniforms or the strict rules. It's about the shared experiences and the silent support they provide for one another. It's in the moments when they stand together in silence, side by side, that the bond between them truly solidifies. They may not speak often, but there is an understanding that goes beyond words. They are united in their dedication, in their sacrifices, and in their shared role as protectors of the monarchy and the nation. This unspoken bond gives the protagonist a renewed sense of purpose. They no longer feel quite as isolated as they did in the beginning. While the emotional toll of the job is still very real, the protagonist now understands that they are not alone in their experience. They have their fellow guards to lean on, even if it's just for a brief moment of connection. And that in itself is a form of strength, a reminder that even in the most demanding of roles, human connection can be a source of resilience. One particularly difficult day, As the protagonist stands watch in the midst of a royal event, the weight of the job feels especially heavy. The noise and excitement of the crowd contrast sharply with the stillness required of them, and the protagonist's mind begins to wander. They think of their family again, of the things they've missed and of the emotional toll the job has taken. For a moment they wonder if they can keep going, if they can continue to endure the isolation and the pressure. But then, as if on cue, their fellow guard, the one they've come to rely on, stands beside them, offering a brief nod of solidarity. No words are exchanged, but in that gesture the protagonist finds strength. They stand a little taller, their focus renewed. They know that no matter how difficult the job may be, they are not facing it alone. The sense of unity among the guards is more than just practical. It's emotional. It's about supporting each other in ways that aren't immediately visible to the outside world. While the public sees only the stoic figures in uniform behind the scenes, there is a network of unspoken understanding, a brotherhood that keeps the guards grounded through their most challenging moments. For the protagonist, this realization marks a significant shift in their perspective. They begin to appreciate the importance of these bonds, not just as colleagues but as human beings who, despite the strict nature of their duties, understand what it means to struggle, to sacrifice, and to endure together. With this newfound sense of camaraderie, the protagonist feels a stronger connection to their role as a royal guard. They no longer feel as if they are simply part of an impersonal tradition. They feel like they belong to something bigger, an unbreakable network of individuals who support each other through the silent, demanding, and sometimes isolating life they lead. This bond, more than anything, helps them continue, no matter how challenging the days may be.